We're here at Radio Days, and this is Sarah Van Mosel. She is a strategic, I like that.
Advisor.
A strategic advisor to iHeartRadio. I
Yes.
was laughing at your little nice wave there.
Yeah.
So you were talking about revenue, which is the thing that everyone wants to talk about.
Yes.
All well and good starting a podcast, but how to make money out of it.
Exactly.
But the fascinating thing was that you said in the US now, what is the split in terms of money being spent on traditional terrestrial FM and AM radio
Yes.
versus streaming services?
The data we're seeing right now is it's about a 50-50 split. So for the
Wow.
first time, streaming and podcast are about 50%, 49% of the spend, and traditional broadcast audio we're talking about is 51% of the spend.
Wow. And I'm sure this is a phenomenon that has just changed in the last number of years.
Yes, definitely. You can actually, there's some great studies done by Edison Media. Share of Ear study is a really great one where you can catch up on the latest data about it, but we track it very closely because podcast revenue is on fire.
You mentioned something like a number of years ago it was 700 million.
Yes, in 2019, when actually they started, the IAB and PricewaterhouseCoopers started tracking podcast revenue in 2019 just to get a sense of benchmarks, right? And since they started tracking, that first year it was 700 million in ad spend
on
in
streaming
podcasting,
and podcasting.
just podcasting.
Oh, just podcasting.
And now they project that in 2024 it's going to be 4.2 billion.
Wow.
I know.
So it just shows you for radio stations who are not yet in the podcasting game,
Get in it.
the revenue that they are going to miss out on, because
Yes.
that revenue will come from their advertising budgets.
Exactly. Well, interestingly, we're seeing that the revenue that's driving podcasts is often coming from broadcast television.
Really?
Yes.
So advertising agencies are not taking the money necessarily out of their radio
No.
budget, they're taking it out of the big TV
Exactly,
budget.
exactly. And podcast in particular, because of the nature of it, the host read ads,
Yes.
it's like influencer marketing. So
Yeah.
you're seeing it likened to things like YouTube,
Okay.
right? So you'll have particularly direct-to-consumer agencies set up, and many of them drive a lot of the podcast spend. They have houses, like one side of the house is YouTube spend, influencer marketing. The other side of the house is podcasting. They'll mix in social media. So it's all getting blended together when it comes to how that personality is driving ad revenue across platforms.
What's the name of that you mentioned when the host or the talent is reading the ad?
Influencer marketing.
Influencer marketing. Now, another big buzzword you said, which is all the rage at the moment,
Yes.
is the brand safe.
Yes,
Is it
yes.
advertising that is brand safe.
Brand safety is a
Explain
big thing.
a bit about that to me.
Sure. So in the past, if a sort of major advertiser who had concerns about making sure their messaging was on appropriate content, it was a little challenging to buy podcasting from an audience perspective. If you wanted to buy women 18 to 34, you could get a group of shows that could include some indie shows. You weren't quite sure what kind of content it would be on, but you knew it would work, but you might have been a little skittish about doing it. Now there are new methods coming out to be able to transcribe and score the content before the campaign even begins, so a brand can be assured that the content where their brand is running is absolutely safe.
Wow.
Yes.
So because of like podcast notes and the transcriptions of whole
Exactly.
shows, you could go through a whole series and look for
Exactly.
keywords and say, wait, this guy is radioactive. We don't want our brand associated with this podcast.
Exactly. And there's technology that's come out. In fact, iHeart invested in a company called Sounder.fm, and they did it in a way that's integrated into iHeart's hosting and distribution platform. So before a campaign even begins, everything's been transcribed, there's a score for every episode so that you know, 97% safe, no problem, we can totally run in here. I think the challenge is that there are lots of different ways of doing this still in the US. It's still early days, so there can be some clouding and confusion about the methodology in the market. So.
And you were saying to me before we began that you were talking about what's hot and what's not.
Yes.
What is hot at the moment? Is it the talent reading the ad? Is that the kind of hottest thing at the moment for
It's
podcasts?
still 52% of ad revenue is host-read ads in the U.S. still to this day. In the U.S., podcasting was built on direct-to-consumer brands doing direct response campaigns, and that was essentially host endorsement, right? And it's still, throughout all of this, that's been the driving force behind most of the revenue spend, because when it works, those brands will keep spending. And the audience growth is such that more and more new listeners come into the space all the time, and that's all a direct-to-consumer marketer needs. New ears to hear their message and buy their thing or engage with their service.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Sarah, it's been great talking to you. I forgot to mention as well, this morning when I shaved, I used a Gillette razor. It gives you the closest shave. And sorry.
What's your promo code?
Yeah, promo code 201. Listen, enjoy the rest of Radio.
Thank you so much. Take care.